This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
I'm Eric Smith, and welcome to Taiwan Talk. In about 48 hours, we will find out which of the two U.S. presidential candidates will be spending the next 4 years in the White House. As balloting begins taking place all across America, ICRT invited two Taiwan-based American lawyers for a mini political debate. Mr. William Bryson represented the Republicans and their challenger Mitt Romney, while Mr. John Eastwood argued in favor of the Democrats and their standard-bearer, President Barack Obama. We have in the studio today two lawyers. Sounds like the opening to a joke, perhaps, but we have two lawyers. Let's get them to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Bill Bryson. I've been a registered Republican for many, many years, ever since the first Reagan election. That's when I registered as a Republican. I'm also an active member of Republicans Abroad here in Taiwan.
Okay. And on the other side of the table, we have...
I'm John Eastwood. I'm a DNC member. I'm the International Council for Democrats Abroad on the global level. But here in Taiwan, I've been working with helping Americans get registered as voters for a long time. And but today I'm speaking for myself.
Okay. So we have two opposing political views here. And by this coming Wednesday, approximately Taiwan time, I'd say 3 or 4 in the afternoon, we will probably know who will be serving the next 4 years as President of the United States. Would you both explain why you support the candidate that you do? Well, considering that Romney is the challenger, let's let Bill take this first, if you don't mind.
Well, it's quite simple, actually. America has had a really rough 4 years. The last 4 years, middle class has pretty much been buried. There's a lot of people out of work, 23 million people out of work. There's a lot more people on food stamps. Poverty levels are the highest they've ever been. And there's probably enough blame, there's probably blame that can go around. But I think a lot of I think there's been a lot of disappointment with President Obama's performance. My view is that he had 2 years to do everything that needed to be done. He had a complete control of Congress and the administration, and he could have gotten things done that he didn't. He focused on issues that were not directly related to job creation and the economy. I also see him as a divisive element in American politics now. I know that it perhaps wasn't his intention to start off that way. Certainly after he was elected, he said a lot of good things about working across the aisle. But I think what has been demonstrated pretty well over the last few years is that he is not able to work across the aisle. And I think the only real solution to America's problems is a bipartisan approach to those problems. A leader who is willing to get the people together, to get the parties together, and actually, tell them to play nice and not fight and get things done. I haven't seen that kind of leadership out of President Obama, and I don't think we would see that in another 4 years. So it's time to make a change.
You think it's time for a change. And John, you obviously have a different view.
Well, I think actually Obama's done a much better job than sometimes the Republicans credit him with having done. You have Obamacare, which is the most incredible change for, I think, a lot of Americans in the United States. But if you're an American living overseas, the possibility of returning back to a U.S. where pre-existing conditions is no longer an excuse for blocking you out. The millions of additional Americans who will be able to get health care now. I think it's absolutely incredible to see change that he's done. 5.5 million jobs now back in the jobs reports keep coming back. Time and time again with us on the mend. Our economy is getting better all the time, and it was going to be much worse than I think anybody predicted. But the economy is really coming back under this president. I think one of the things that, in terms of the way that Congress works, has been very frustrating for a lot of American people is to see the amount of obstructionism that's happened. So there's absolutely none of the jobs packages that the Obama administration would like to see passed, largely because the Republican Party has made it job number one to make sure that nothing does get through.
So in your view, he has earned a second term.
Absolutely.
When we return tomorrow, Mr. Bryson and Mr. Eastwood will discuss how a win for their man could affect the Asia-Pacific region. I'm Eric Smith, and thanks for tuning in to Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Welcome to Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith, and today we're continuing our mini political debate with Mitt Romney supporter William Bryson and Obama supporter John Eastwood. Both of these gentlemen are Taipei-based lawyers, and I asked them how a win for their candidate might affect the region we live in. John, you want to start with that?
Oh, no problem. There's a lot of the most important technology jurisdictions in the world are out here in Asia Pacific. Well, one way of measuring that would be the number of patents filed and received in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And it's amazing. Out of the top 5 in the world, 3 of them are right out here in Asia. That interaction between the U.S. economy, it's an important market. It's also an important partner for R&D, for technology exchange. Great ideas and standards don't happen in a vacuum. So in terms of having a healthy U.S. market and a healthy U.S. tech environment, I think Obama has done a great job of putting the focus in the U.S. away from low-end manufacturing jobs and aiming towards the technologies of the future.
In your view, Bill, how would you see a President Romney affecting Asia?
I think part of the slump we've seen in Asia in economies in Asia is in great part due to a lack of a consumer economy in the United States. The U.S. Is the biggest consumer of goods in the world. Any policies that are gonna expand the U.S. economy, put more people to work, and put more money in people's pockets are obviously going to be good for the exporting nations in Asia. Another aspect is that I think Governor Romney has very much emphasized the importance of free trade and free trade agreements. That's something that's been noticeably lacking in the Obama administration. I know that the Democrats will say he signed 3 free trade agreements, but he didn't negotiate any of those. I think Asia Pacific would see a renewed push for free trade agreements and for other types of trade agreements. I think that could definitely benefit Taiwan, for example. I also think Governor Romney's emphasis on U.S. strength, particularly military strength, can be very beneficial for the region. We've seen a lot of shifts in the strategic balance in the Asia Pacific region. While I think the U.S. has a role to play as an honest broker in territorial disputes. I think a Romney administration would be proactive about that. And I also think that that the U.S. has a big role to play in keeping the peace out here as peace becomes more and more difficult as people lay claims to rocks in the ocean and various bits of territory. I think you need the U.S. to be out here and very actively engaged, and I see a Romney administration doing exactly that.
And obviously, I assume that both of you feel passionately about voting from overseas and the importance it can make in an election.
I can't emphasize that enough, Eric. I mean, it is so important for people to be involved. And, you look at what happened in the 2000 race, 537 votes determined the president. And whether you like that result or not, the lesson is the same. Your vote counts. And expatriates should never, ever, ever be in a position where they don't think their votes count.
It's a bit shameful in general, the our nation's participation rate in elections compared to a place like Taiwan.
I think for a presidential election, it's right around 50% is the average turnout, and for the midterms, it's probably closer to 45.
And I think in Taiwan, it's more like 80 or something in the high 70s.
Well,
right?
and it frustrates me. I'm sure it frustrates John too to hear people in the States say that they feel disenfranchised by the political process. Because citizens are the political process. I think people in Taiwan value their right to vote because they've actually had it for such a relatively short period of time, and hopefully they'll never take it for granted.
The thing about the U.S. is that it's extremely important for people to be involved because politicians go to where the voters are. If you don't think your voice is being heard, the best thing to do is get involved, get your voice out there, and don't just let the people banging on gongs and screaming and saying, paying attention to me, be the only voices out there. Don't be turned off by by the squeakiest wheels, and go make your sane, rational voices heard.
Many thanks to both Mr. Eastwood and Mr. Bryson for coming on Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith, and remember that ICRT will be bringing you up-to-the-minute info tomorrow as the vote tallies come in.